Carolina falls literally inches short of the first win in the ACC era for Bill Belichick.
This is Kamori House, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Saturday, October 25th, 2025. Welcome into this Locked On Tar Heels podcast, postcast edition. We're coming to you live just minutes after Carolina falls literally inches short against Virginia. It's the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining me in the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to sincerely thank you for making us your place to come for immediate post-game reactions. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like every Tar Heel athlete, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Want to wish a special shout out to all the everydayers who are joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our insiders. Great to see all of you. Carolina falls 17-16 at the hands of previously ACC undefeated Virginia, and they stay that way because Carolina could not quite get it done. And boy, did they have chance after chance after chance, and just it wasn't there. Carolina falls to 2-5 on the season, 0-3 in ACC play. Nearly got that first ACC win of the Bill Belichick era, but it was not meant to be. So consequently, we got ourselves a nice little therapy session going on here today. Looking ahead just a little bit while we're all getting settled after the game. Ball game and the basketball exhibition. Then on Tuesday's show, Tyler Zeller is going to join me to talk more about the BYU exhibition. He was on the radio call. He was in the building on Friday night there at the Delta Center, and so it'll be great to get all of his takeaways from it. Make plans to join us. So what we're going to do for those of you who are maybe new to our live postcasts, we're just going to give takeaways from this game. Big picture, small picture, and everything in between. Later on, we'll get to your comments and questions and observations. And we got to start at the end because controversial decision by Bill Belichick to go for two. Virginia gets a touchdown and the point after in the first overtime. Then obviously Carolina knows what they need to do. They continue to drive the ball, get a nice little swing pass out to the flat. Was it Davion Goss? I believe that had that touchdown right at the end there. It all happened in such a flurry that I'm now forgetting. Yes, it was Davion Goss. And so immediately Carolina decides to go for two there at the end. And here's the take. That was the right call. And here's the funny thing. I know there's going to be half of you on this postcast that are going to completely disagree vehemently with me. And there's going to be another half of you that's like, yeah, it was absolutely the right call. Let me give you the reasons why. First off, this type of decision is not a results-based decision. You have to make the decision, and then whether it works out or doesn't cannot be the factor. It cannot be, well, we didn't make it, so clearly it was the wrong decision. No, that's faulty logic. That's terrible logic. Whether or not Carolina was successful on that 2-point conversion does not factor into making the decision itself. Here's why I believe it was the right call. Number one, season long, Carolina's got nothing to lose. They came into this game 2-4 overall, 0-2 in the ACC play. Virginia comes in undefeated in ACC play, just one loss on the season. They haven't looked great, if we're being honest. They needed a safety last week to beat Washington State, whatever. But Carolina, who had chance after chance in this game, at some level, you're like, man, the football gods are against us. And so you say, throw caution to the wind, because at this point, you're just trying to win games. Yes, I know. I hear it. Carolina's defense had been really, really good throughout this game. They had been stopping Virginia's vaunted rushing attack. We'll get to that. And Carolina, scored that touchdown. But let's be honest, we've seen Carolina's offense throughout this season. There were no guarantees that the Tar Heels were going to turn around and get it right on the second overtime, nor were there any guarantees that Carolina was going to be able to stop Virginia again. So you're giving me one play needing 3 yards to get Carolina's first ACC play or ACC win of the Bill Belichick era. I'm taking those odds. And it's kind of ironic. Last week, Carolina against Cal, and I know they don't win the game if Nathan Leacock scores because there's plenty of time left, but, gets the ball punched out right at the goal line. Here, Carolina doesn't extend it right at the goal line. Ben Hall tackled just shy of the pylon. I think if he had reached it out, because it looked like his knees were up, all of that, enough to where if he had extended it and touched the pylon, Carolina wins. And so those inches, you're going to tell me, making the decision, it was the right call or not to go for it. Again, for my money's worth, it cannot factor in. And here's the other thing. Carolina had chance after chance after chance in this game and squandered them. And so you take what you can get when you can get it, right? Unfortunately, the Kobe Paysour thing right at the beginning of the game, that's 6, probably 7 points. The missed field goal, which it's a 50-yard field goal. You can't put that on the kicker. I know he made the warm-up kick when Virginia called the timeout, but still, man, 50-yard field goals is like, good luck, right? And so I'm not putting that on the kicker. But again, you missed those 3 points. Carolina had other opportunities, other turnovers. And so for me, again, the right call, very worth it to go for that. A couple weeks ago, ahead of the Cal game, Bill Belichick said, first off, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. And he said, we're getting better. And I believe, I can't remember who it was, but somebody at the press conference asked him, Coach, we got to see it because we haven't. And understandably so, because the product on the field to that point hadn't been competitive at all. But in the 2 games since, Carolina not only has been competitive, but has been in position to win those football games. So maybe it's time to listen to Coach a little bit, because we saw the things that you need to do. Carolina, quite frankly, put themselves in the position to win this game. They just couldn't execute the specific plays, just those couple plays that can swing the tide, like Paysour holds on to that ball. Carolina probably wins in regulation. And then we're not even having a conversation about a 2-point conversion. Had that field goal gone through the uprights and everything else stayed the same, Carolina wins in regulation. All of those kind of things. But of course, it's just, it's so maddening that for the second week in a row, Carolina loses a fumble just outside the goal line and is robbed of those points. Which, by the way, the whole, you lose the ball at basically your own end zone and it goes out of the end zone either to the side or to the back, and the ball is then awarded to the other team, is the most, and a touchback is the most absurd rule in sports to me. It is bonkers, it is nonsensical, and it doesn't add up. Bear with me here. If Kobe Paysour had lost that ball a foot further back and it just went out of bounds to the sideline, does Virginia get that ball? By no means. That's Carolina's football. But because it goes a couple inches forward into the end zone, it's now suddenly Virginia's ball. That doesn't add up. It's just a dumb rule. And I mentioned something about it on Twitter, and somebody said, what would you change or what would you do? For me, it would just be simply take the ball back to the point at where it was fumbled. So if you fumble it on the 2, return it to the 2. If, whatever it is, there's no reason that should be change of possession. It is silly to reward the defense there, because you wouldn't reward the defense for a fumble that goes out of bounds in the, anywhere in between the end zones. It's ridiculous. What are we doing? All of that said, though, Carolina has to be able to execute these critical plays. And they're going to get there, right? You see the progression. You see them being competitive these last 2 weeks. They could have had 20 points in the first half. And unfortunately, yet again, now they've played 5 games against Power 4 opponents and have not scored over 20 points in any of them. they keep making progression. Last week was the highest. This week they bumped it 1 point higher and could have been even 2 more points higher had Carolina been able to just get that 2-point conversion. Whatever. So the biggest point of good that I saw on Saturday was clearly the Carolina defense. They did everything they needed to do against Virginia, who averages 200 yards a game on the ground. Carolina held them to basically a quarter of that. I want to talk about the defense and Carolina's offense in the first half, not so much the second half. We'll get to all of that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward moment. For those who believe it's about more than just playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board, although I wish Carolina had put 2 more points on the board. These moments move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving ahead. For Carolina, man, I just thought it was such a neat story to have Tucker Madrid coming in off basically the practice squad and leading Carolina in receptions with 8 catches for 41 yards, man. That's a cool story. And it's just great to see Carolina working to continue to find guys who can come in and contribute. And I just thought that was such a neat story. Way to go, Tucker Madrid, man. Congrats to you. That's really, really cool. We'll see how Carolina can keep moving the game forward, because when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, as we continue to talk, I'm going to pull up the box score for those who are watching on YouTube and want to check that out. For those of you who are listening back later, we're so glad you're here. You can find that box score elsewhere. By the way, in the next segment, I'm going to go to the comment section. So if you've got takes, observations, you want to push back on me about the 2-point conversion, drop them in there. We'll get to them in the third segment. All right. The biggest standout in this game was the Carolina defense, right? I was kind of worried about how Carolina would do. Virginia averaging 203 yards a game on the ground. They had just 19 in the first half of this game, and they finished, I think it was in the 50s, 59 yards on the ground. So Carolina nearly cuts their average on ground yardage in by 3 quarters. Phenomenal stuff there. And quite frankly, that's where Carolina has looked better defensively, is stopping the run, and they do that really well today. But it wasn't just stopping the run. The Carolina is able to get 6 sacks in this football game. Virginia had allowed 5 all season long. Really impressive stuff, getting to the quarterback, getting him down consistently. Really, really cool stuff. Melkart Abujade is responsible for 3 of those sacks by himself. CJ Mims got one. Isaiah Johnson got one. And Tyler Thompson stepping up again to get the other. A couple other big plays defensively. Andrew Simpson had that great pick. There were so many swings of emotion in this game, where each team, swings of emotion and momentum, I guess I should say, where it felt like there was a big critical play that was going to happen and the other team would get a big play, or the team would flounder and falter and all that. But also for the defense, Virginia had 6 drives in the first half. 4 of those 6 drives were 3 and outs. I mean, that you can't really ask for more if you're Carolina. In the second half, I haven't gone and gotten it all here, but man, how many 3 and outs for Virginia in the second half? Not as many, but Carolina, I mean, obviously no point. Neither team scored in the second half. So, yeah, I don't believe it was any through. Oh, because there was the interception and then the end of the second half, and in between was 9, 6, and 5. But then there was also the first drive of the second half for Virginia that Carolina was able to stuff them on the 1-yard line for a turnover on downs. So Carolina did what they needed to do defensively to win this football game. Like, you can take that to the bank. That is true. The problem, once again, unfortunately, is the offense. In the first half of this game, it looked like the offense was doing enough. Gio Lopez had a season high in passing yards in the first half of this football game. And you can take that and be very, very pleased with it. 173 yards. The problem, however, is that when the game ended, remember, at halftime, Gio Lopez had 173 yards. When this game ended, he had 208. So what's that, like 33 passing yards in the second half? You guys, that ain't it. that just quite frankly is not going to cut it. Now, part of that, I should say, is that Carolina was looking to run some clock, grind clock, and so keeping the ball on the ground. And so we'll take that. Where Carolina got 145 yards on the ground. It was funny because nobody really dominated things. Ben Hall had the most carries, 11 for 50 yards, but Juju had 9 carries for 39 yards. Bullet Goss had 3 carries for 30 yards. Jalen McGill had 3 for 14. So you saw all 4 of those running backs get in within like the first 3 series of this game. And a couple of them had catches too. Jalen McGill had 2 catches for 23 yards. Bullet had 1 for 9, which was just literally the last play from scrimmage outside of the 2-point conversion try. And so good to see those guys doing it. But just quite frankly, the second half of this game, the offense did not do enough. There's some plays where Gio throws a ball and it's like, man, that's a great ball. It's got zip on it. It's where it needs to be. And others where it's just like, that's a poor choice, or it's a poorly placed ball, or it's an RPO situation. And it feels like maybe Gio's making the wrong read. All of that has to be cleaned up. Right. Again, there are strides moving forward. I can recognize it and I can see it, but the offense yet again has to get better. But the cool story on offense, I mentioned it in that ad read, is Tucker Madrid, number 86, getting his first action as a Tar Heel, getting the most targets on the team, 9, catching 8 of them, only 41 yards. So more, just kind of possession receiver kind of situation, but you'll take it. Kobe Paysour, coming off of that massive game last week against Cal, had just 3 catches, but it went for 53 yards. Unfortunately, there was that fumble we talked about. That's not going to be able to do it either. So, we'll see with that. So ultimately, Carolina, once again, to sum it up, they do enough defensively, but the offense just was not there. And so ultimately now, Carolina back to the drawing board. Next week, they're going to be it's another Friday night game. It's up in Syracuse, which is Halloween night. That game is guaranteed to get spooky. And just I'm bummed, man. I want it so much for these guys, and you got to feel like it's going to get there, but you're getting to the point now where any hopes of making a bowl game are kind of fading away, right? You just thought like maybe you could sneak a couple wins and get there. Had you won the Cal game, had you won this Virginia game, you'd now be up to 4 wins with Syracuse, Stanford, Wake, Duke, and NC State left on it. Now, mathematically, Carolina still can make a bowl game. I know that feels weird. They're 2-5 overall, but you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left. If you can get 4 of those 5, you make a bowl. Now, easier said than done, obviously, but you would have put yourself in much better position to do so had you won this football game, which, as we've said, Carolina clearly wasn't able to do. All right. I know there's quite a few comments over on the other side. We want to get to those to wrap the show, see what your takeaways and reactions from are this. If you haven't done it yet, you got an ad read to get it in, and then we'll go see what you have to say about this game. Coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Y'all, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has a deal that you do not want to miss out on. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. When you use FanDuel, whether it's parlays, whether it's player props, even jumping in on the action live, it makes watching football even more exciting since you got a little something riding on all the action. So whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. Hey, Carolina for the second week in a row lost, but they covered the spread. Carolina was a 10.5-point dog to Virginia and lost by 1. So, there's something there. Carolina, by the way, in basketball, 3rd in the ACC regular season championship odds behind Duke and Louisville. Maybe you think you saw enough last night against BYU and Carolina's going to win. Go get in on that action. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started today. Okay, let's see what you guys got in the chat. I'm keeping the box score up, and that'll be good. Melinda Dolphin, what's up, Melinda? She says, at least we're showing up to games, and that's critical. I mean, it was embarrassing. The TCU game, the UCF game, the Clemson game in particular, woof. right? Like the TCU game, at least at halftime, Carolina was still in that game. I mean, that Clemson game, man, ugly. But these last two, both Cal and then Virginia today, while it's not ideal, you want to win and you want to do all that stuff, Carolina was competitive and there are signs of progress. And right now, that's all you can ask for. What's ahead? You know, is Gio making enough progress where they'll stick with him? It seems like they're going to. It seems like they're committed to it. But is it going to translate into an actual W? I feel like Carolina is going to get at least one more win this season. And even that, having to say that feels defeatist. I recognize that. But they showed up and they were competitive. And for the second game in a row, had a chance to win. Kind of going off of what we just said, Samuel Gonzalez says, I think it's time to give another quarterback a shot. And look, we're going to continue to have to reckon with this. And Sam brings up a great question, right? From what we saw in the first half of this game, which I contend was the single best half of football, complementary-wise, offense and defense, that Carolina has played all season long. But if you look at the second half alone, no. I mean, it was not. The defense, yeah. Give it up to the defense, man. They just keep trucking. But for the offense, it wasn't. But you never saw the switch to Max Johnson. Will that happen? Or either of the freshmen in Bryce Baker and Torrey Newkirk? I would like to say, you know, if you're not going to be able to do it, Carolina has not scored 20 points in the 5 games against Power 4 competition. That's just not good enough. Michael Daniels, seems like you're kind of in the same train of thought that I am. We played hard and the defense was outstanding. I mean, I think that is a fair word to say about the defense. We are getting better. Don't jump off the train yet. It's funny. I think about, you know, let's go to men's basketball, where UConn had won back-to-back national championships before last year. Just a few short years before that, UConn was awful. And I remember a press conference where Danny Hurley said, "Get us while you can." I forget the exact phrase, but that was the mindset behind it. You better beat us now because we're coming. And I don't know that Carolina's there, right? Like that level. But Bill Belichick's been saying it, like, we are getting better. This team is getting better. They're making strides. They're improving. And through 2 weeks, yes, again, you haven't won, but clear signs of improvement. And that's a thing. All right, let's Sydney Wade. Yeah. I got to apologize to Bill Belichick. Much improved. He's not dropping balls, fumbling, and missing field goals. That's a good point. Like, Sydney, you know what? I probably need to apologize to Bill Belichick as well. And I think a lot of other people do, although we'll save the full apologies till they actually put W's into it. But you're right. Coach Belichick can't hold on to the football at the goal line. He can't, you know, and again, as I said earlier, I'm not going to quibble with missing a 50-yard field goal. The fact that he made the first one, I was like, dang it. You know, you kind of see it. Yeah, Coach Belichick can't do it. The players, what I love is that the players haven't given up, right? It's clear that they are still bought in and trying and going. It's just, they got to make those few execution plays. So thanks for saying that, Sydney. I think that's a really good point. On the other side of it, BP says this. He says, this has been a train wreck of a season, period. That I agree with to this point, although the train's getting a little more on the tracks. And then he says Lombardi and Belichick got to go. I am not there. I cannot and will not say that. I respect your ability to do so. So I'm not pushing back on you. I'm just saying that for me, I'm not at that point yet. Like, if things had gotten so bad and then continued to tank, we'd be having different conversations. But right now, Carolina is trending in the right direction. They're doing all you can ask of them with 70 new football players, and I can live with that. So, BP, I completely understand why you're there. I'm not, though. Mark Williams. Oh, yes. I love this. The Bobby Bowden sequence. I hadn't even thought about this. I'm so glad you brought this in, Mark. Mark says, per the Bobby Bowden sequence of progress. For those of you who are younger and might not be aware, Bobby Bowden is the famed, legendary FSU coach. He said the Bobby Bowden sequence of progress. You lose big, check. Then you lose small, check. Then you win small and win big. And Mark says, we apparently are in the lose small part of the sequence. I think that's a great zoomed out look at this thing, Mark, because Carolina clearly had the lose big sequence. And I'm not saying they won't lose big again this season, although competition wise, there's nobody on the schedule that I look at and say, that team's going to blow Carolina out of the water. Syracuse is up next. They lost their quarterback. They're struggling. Stanford's not good. We'll see. Not that I'm saying Carolina's good. I'm just saying Stanford's not either. And so Carolina has now lost small twice in a row. When does the next phase of the Bobby Bowden sequence happen? Is that this season at some point? I would think it is. But sometimes even in this sequence of progress, you take a step forward and then maybe you take a step back. So say Carolina does go win a game small. They might lose again small. That, just it's almost like the stock market. Eventually, though, you keep going up and up, and that's the goal. 2 steps forward. Even if you take 1 step back, then you keep pushing forward. So, Mark, thanks so much for bringing that in. I appreciate it. Corey Bissonette says, tons of mistakes and still can't score 20 in a game. I mean, it's almost comical, Carolina's ability to stay under 20 points against Power 4 competition. 14 against TCU, 9 against UCF, 10 against Clemson, 16 last week against Cal, 15 last week against Cal, and then 16 today against Virginia. I mean, it's crazy. And Carolina had the plays. They had the opportunities and the moments that would have gotten them over 20. And that's not some brilliant threshold. That's like saying a batter is like, hey, you're hitting over 200 now. Way to go. No, I mean, Drake May would have broken 20 getting out of bed in the morning, right? I mean, it's just reality. It's tough because on one hand, you want to clean up mental mistakes, but it's the physical mistakes that are seeming to be the issues right now. Got to get those tidied up and get with it. Yeah. So I said, for me, I love going for 2 there at the end of the first overtime. The kosher clinician, I love that name. That's great. Says, man, this one hurts, in all caps. I wish Coach Belichick would have gone into the second overtime, meaning kicked and gone for 1. And so I was hoping that people would push back, because I'm just one man with one opinion, right? And so I'm glad you're bringing this out, kosher clinician. That's what makes sports talk fun like this, when we have pushback and disagreement. So thank you for that. There is a scenario where Carolina kicks and then they have to start the ball in second overtime. And that's the other thing. In first overtime, you had the benefit of knowing what you had to do. In the second overtime, you fret of like, do we go for it on 4th and 1 or do we kick? Because then you don't know what Virginia is going to do. I'm of the mind that because of what Virginia's been able to do, they would have scored another touchdown. Of course, you all have to go for 2 in the second overtime. And so definitely an argument for kicking and going to the second overtime. Again, I just fall on the side of, I think with what Carolina's done season long, and even looking at the zoomed in version of today, it made sense to go for 2. Anthony Brown says, what's up? What's up, Anthony Brown? Good to see you. Let's get your name up there so we can get you that shout out on there. Melinda says, I asked for real progress, so I won't complain. Basketball should be less frustrating. And then literally David Poole follows it up with, go knock on wood, Melinda. Don't put that out there. LOL. Yeah. A great performance last night from the basketball team, but Melinda, please don't jinx the Tar Heels. No, I legitimately think Carolina football has got something there and is going to be good. Mark, I must have said Madrid Tucker's name wrong, because Mark Williams has said Madrid Tucker in the chat multiple times. And there's that. So if I got Madrid Tucker's name wrong, I apologize. Last one that we've got up here that I want to get to, unless somebody else drops something in. So if you've got other things you want to get in the chat, now's the time to do it, because we're about to get out of here. Fabian Thompson says, UNC can't throw the ball deep, and asks, is it all on the quarterback, with a whole bunch of question marks? That's a good question. Fabian, I think it's a little bit of everywhere. I think it is on Gio, whose deep ball, there's been a couple that have been okay, but the vast majority of them have not. And I feel like a lot of times it's like not even close. He's what now. There have been a couple where it's a hurry up throw because the line hasn't protected. I get that. But even with time, a lot of the deep balls simply haven't been there. And so I think the vast majority of it, Fabian, yes, is on Gio. But there are not the elite level receivers. I mean, Carolina has some really good receivers right now. Jordan Shipp is really good. Kobe Paysord, I think, is a really good receiver. You saw Madrid Tucker kind of break out today. We'll see if that continues to be a thing. I think it's on the O-line some to protect him. But for me, it's chiefly on Gio to get it done. The other thing, and I forgot to say this, and I tweeted about this. It is maddening how often on third down, Carolina receivers are running routes short of the sticks or taking their first step after behind it. And I know why you do that. Sometimes you give up a yard to let a defender blow by and then you pick up a couple. But Carolina, like the receivers, it is so frustrating to see them like literally run your route 2 yards deeper. And I get it. If Gio's got to get rid of the ball and so he dumps it off, that's fine. But I'm saying even with time and protection, they're on 3rd and 5, there's guys running 4-yard routes. That is absurd. Absurd. And so that is what it is there. So hopefully we get some fixes there. All right, guys, great to be together on the show. I know frustrating to lose yet another should have had a game. I mean, inches. Carolina lost this one as Ben Hall can't get it across the line. But back to the drawing board. Again, heading up to Syracuse on Halloween night this coming Friday. As a reminder, Carolina will have another men's basketball exhibition this Wednesday against Winston-Salem State. So one of those games that they should be able to just do a bunch of stuff, try a bunch, and see what they can get out there. We'll see if Luka Bogovac is going to be able to play in that game or not. And then next Monday is the regular season tip-off, Carolina hosting Central Arkansas. And then that Friday, Kansas comes to the Dean Dome. Going to be all right, you guys. I appreciate you being here with me for this therapy session after Carolina loses yet again on the football field. If you've not subscribed to the show, do it now so that you don't miss a single second of what we're doing here on Locked On Tar Heels. If you haven't joined our Discord, we'd love to see you in there. That place was popping off as always today during the game. Come on in. That link's in the show notes. If you want to go even deeper, I'm about to get this posted and then go work on my preseason basketball record book and stat preparation. That's going to be up for you just today in the Discord. Somebody asked me if I would track Seth Trimble's and ones and Caleb Wilson's dunks this year. So I'm going to do that, but it's going to be only available to the Locked On Tar Heels Insider. So if you want to get access to those stats free, come be a Locked On Tar Heels Insider. That link is in the show notes. All right, guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again on Monday to unpack it all more. But until then, peace.